You don't have to do blogging. You don't have to do public speaking. Do what you are passionate about, because that passion will be reflected in the community, and you will be getting to your final destination quicker and in a more fun way than if you are trying just to force it and try to follow the rules.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Sitecore Water Cooler, the casual conversation podcast dedicated to covering all things related to Sitecore, including product updates, implementation insights, getting the most out of your Sitecore investment, and more. I'm your co-host today, Maggie Burke, Sitecore Operations Director and Sitecore MVP at AmericanEagle.com. Welcome back, folks, to the podcast series dedicated to the Sitecore MVP community, the innovators, advocates, and thought leaders shaping the future of digital experience. In part one, we heard firsthand from some of our AmericanEagle.com Sitecore MVPs to talk about their journeys, experiences, and what earning MVP recognition has meant to them. Now, we're taking you behind the scenes with the team behind the program. In this episode, Rick and I are joined by members of the Sitecore team to explore the origins of the MVP program, what the evaluation process really looks like, and reflect on some of the moments that have made this community so special. Whether you're an aspiring MVP or simply curious about how the program works, this episode offers an inside look at the people, passion, and purpose behind one of the most respected recognition programs in the Sitecore ecosystem. Tamas, Sebastian, welcome to the water cooler. Thank you guys for hopping on. Yeah, no, this is great. You guys are across the pond over in Dublin, so we appreciate you guys dialing in. Before we get started into hopping into some questions, we've got, Sebastian and Tamas hopping on first. Can you guys just give a quick intro about who you guys are, maybe what your role is at Sitecore, and give us a little insight into where you guys are located in the world originally? Because obviously, as I mentioned, you guys are in Dublin right now, but you guys are all sprinkled across the globe. So would love to hear that insight as well.
Yes, for sure. My name is Tamas Varga. I was born and raised in Hungary. I still work from there. Not for too long. This is my last week at Sitecore.
There we go. It's a good way to start your last week, but...
Indeed.
Yes.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Sebastian. The title is now Sitecore Community Programs Manager.
There you go.
I had several roles in my time at Sitecore, but now I'm that. And I'm located in Germany near Düsseldorf.
Very nice. And congrats on the new role.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Absolutely. So if we wanted to talk a little bit more about just taking it kind of back to the beginning of the program, Tamas, can you talk to us just about, the origin of the Sitecore MVP program and maybe why it was originally created? Because obviously you've been a part of the program for a very long time. So.
Yes, indeed. I was part of the program since 2010, even though it started in 2008. Mm-hmm. And really started because Sitecore, even back that time, was really, having a big community, a lot of people blogging and contributing. And Sitecore really would like to recognize those contributions. And also, as you know, that this is a program, not just an award. Mm-hmm. So not just awarding people, but being involved in the program also means that, getting together with the product teams, some discussions under NDA, mm-hmm. and getting a VIP treatment at events and so on. So it started with the same idea and the same mission as we have today, that recognizing those contributions and making sure that both parties get the most out of this relationship.
Right. And what do you think makes the MVP program probably unique compared to others? Because we talked about it on our last episode that, there's a lot of different software platforms, things like that have MVP programs. But what would you guys say maybe makes Sitecore's MVP program so unique?
I think the history, definitely, that's more than 2 decades there. That's for sure. Also, how welcoming and supportive these individuals in the community are. And as you said, these individuals are all over the globe supporting each other, even if they work for competitors. Mm-hmm. And I think those personal connections, which turn into like friendships over the years, not just like coworkers and community members, but real friendships. Mm-hmm. I think that's really unique.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Rick and I can both attest to that. Rick's been in the program longer than I have, but, it's definitely the friendships and people that make those and the connections that are made. And we've said it multiple times on this podcast that, even being at things like MVP Summit and stuff, it really doesn't matter what agency you're at, what partner you're a part of, what even category of MVP you are. Everybody just really, coincides with each other, collaborates, talks about different kind of innovations, enhancements, maybe even codes that they've cracked and things like that. So
yeah, and I think it's the mission has stayed pretty much the same at the core, but I'd be curious to hear, Sebastian, Tamas, either of you, if you think it's evolved or even in subtlety, like if there's been some evolution along the way of the program, even from before I joined.
I would say one of the big evolution part was, as Sitecore started as a really technical platform, but after the years, with even starting with those who remember OMS and DMS, so the platform really started to open up for marketeers and strategists.
Yeah.
Also for us, and after the technology category, having a strategy category, and later on having the ambassador category and so on. So that was, I think, one of the biggest evolution of the program. And of course, the program matured over the years in terms of like how we handle the webinars, how do we do monthly meetings, what kind of benefits the MVPs get. Recently, they get like free exams, free access to all Sitecore learning materials, and so on. So these kind of evolutionary steps were there in the last 18 years for sure.
Maybe just a second on that. Like, it's not a pure tech community, right? It's a community of people surrounding the Sitecore ecosystem, surrounding the Sitecore products. And this involves everyone, product managers, it involves marketers, like all the different roles, but of course also developers, architects. It's very broad, I would say.
You might be surprised if you look at the stats that technology, it's only half of the community or MVP community these days. The other half is strategists and ambassadors. So you might think that mostly technical, but that's not true anymore. So it's like 50-50 technical and the others.
That's like such a good point, Tamas. And it's evolved really with the product and who the decision makers are, out there that are, picking up Sitecore as a solution. It used to be a technical decision, technical purchase, and it became more, it has evolved over, to a marketing purchase. I'd say even in time since then, it's kind of balanced. It's everyone,
of course,
which just maps so well to the community. And it's just, I'll cite the value from a strategist, from the strategy side. Having all of those technical people in the MVP community has just been such a game changer in learning. And I'm sure, Maggie, you felt the same, but just being able to, sit down with a technologist and say, all right, I need to go deep on something.
Yeah.
You're the person,
Oh yeah. I call all of the Sitecore technology MVP guys in the middle of the night with like, I have an idea. Help me figure out how we're going to implement this.
Right.
But I think that's a great point too, right? Because having the community be a part of so many different strategists or brand evangelists within ambassadors, it speaks to what you guys all just said, which is that it's more than just a technology program and people realizing that it is kind of more of that community focus, but realizing that it's not just about implementing the product. You don't just have it and you build it. You have to be strategic about it. And so boasting up that community to be bigger, inclusive with that, I think is important. So those are great notes to definitely make. Let's talk a little bit about the selection process, because we talked a little bit about it with Rick last week with some of our guys, just because Rick has both insights from inside Sitecore, outside of Sitecore, being an MVP himself, but also on the panel.
I gave it all away.
Yeah, he gave away all the secrets. So now there's going to be an influx of MVPs next year. But there's a lot of curiosity, I guess, around just how MVPs are selected. So, can you guys maybe walk us through just like what the evaluation process looks like a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. But before that, I think we really need to make sure that everyone knows that everyone who works with Sitecore, as you mentioned, whether it's marketing, strategy, technology, or executives, everyone is welcome to apply. We have these 3 categories where they can apply, and the deadline for the application is end of November, but you can already add your contributions on the MVP website. So you don't have to wait until November when you enter all your contributions. Throughout the year, you can do that, but it has to be done before the end of November. And after that, there is a 2-month period starting where we are asking more than hundreds of folks to review all these hundreds and hundreds of applications we receive, which means that we do have existing MVPs reviewing those who weren't MVPs the year before. And they are usually reviewing 5 to 10 different applications. We do have regional teams reviewing the applications in the region where they are located. And also we do have the corporate teams, we call them, who are reviewing the applications per category. So it means that every application is reviewed by at least 2 individuals. But sometimes for new applicants, it can be 4, 5, 6, 7 reviewers. So which gives us a really good, assessment on the application. Usually this process starts in December and up until like early January, when we summarize all these reviews and have internal meetings about all the applicants, looking at scores and having meetings with the regional representatives and having meetings with the category representatives, which again takes about 2 weeks before we have the final results. And I think what is really important, what we are looking at, there are 4 areas. What is really important, and one of them is any kind of content they created, whether if it's a blog, podcasts, videos, open source modules, any kind of content in this category is really important. The second one is engagement in the community, going to user groups, attending Sitecore Lunch, being active on Slack or the different forums on LinkedIn. The third one is public speaking. I would say that public speaking is always rated higher, especially if it's an event like a symposium, but also all the different user groups are counting here. And, if it's not Sitecore event, but like an industry event where you talk about your solution to non-Sitecore community, that's also absolutely valuable. And the fourth area is feedback and references, whether you created some references or case studies for Sitecore, if you provided feedback on our beta trainings and exams, or those who are in the MVP program getting early access, and they can also provide feedback on the early access versions and so on. So these are the 4 areas what we are looking at. And inside these 4 areas, there are things what we are looking is absolutely the quality. That's the one of the most important one. Of course, visibility is also important. And when we talk about like quantity, we just look at consistency, really, that those contributions are throughout the year, because this is an annual award.
Yeah, because to your point, the submissions are due in November, but people can be adding to their application throughout the year. So I think it's definitely important to make sure you're doing consistent updates and things like that and contributing throughout the year, because I don't know that it would look great to the judging panel that all of the contributions come in, end of October or things like that. But it sounds like there's so many different ways for people to contribute and add to their application. And it sounds like some things might be weighted a little bit differently. Like, yes, of course, if you're getting on a stage and speaking, that might be weighted a little bit more towards recognition versus, but, that doesn't mean that things like blogs and all that stuff isn't just as important to keep pumping out there. Have you guys noticed any trends in contributions that have maybe grown over the last few years, whether it's just the rise of social media and things like that, or if it's, the fact that we're sitting here on a podcast right now, and those probably weren't that big a few years ago, but have you guys noticed that there was any trends going with different contributions?
You mentioned social media. I think that shifted while we had Twitter or X as a very prominent platform in the past. I think everything moved to LinkedIn, but also formats like that erased. Like I think we have or see more podcasts coming up, which hasn't been a thing maybe 5 years ago. So I would say that's definitely trending. Anything else?
Yeah, we do have a couple of MVPs who are active, let's say, on TikTok. like some folks creating videos about Sitecore on TikTok.
Oh, we need an American Eagle TikTok. Is that what you're telling us?
Do I need to know dance moves for that?
Yeah, I was going to say, Rick will whip out dance moves.
Flossing, right?
Oh boy.
No, I'm not.
We'll get JP to do the flossing.
Yeah, that's it.
Very funny.
Yeah, but I would say that, like, of course, marketplace modules is something really new with Sitecore AI. Those are really coming up. We just published the first MVP created marketplace module last week, and a couple of more are in the pipeline. So those you will see more and more up and coming. But definitely podcast is new, more and more YouTube channels we have. But also, even just Sitecore Lunch, which was started more than 6 years ago or 7 years ago. We do have a Sitecore Lunch in Germany. Sometimes they do some in Spanish, in South America, and so on. So all these things are coming up.
Nice. Can you speak to weighting a little bit? And I'm not looking for like empirical, information. Just more. So I'll start it out by saying, for example, client work that you're doing for your job is not something that is really something that benefits necessarily the community. So it's not looked on as something that you should necessarily put in as a application. I'm sure there's some gray area there, but then go into like, I attended Sitecore Lunch, that's not, so like, did you see where I'm going with this? Like, are there things that like carry more weight? And along the lines of that question is kind of a follow-up going into, for this year, are there things that would definitely that Sitecore, would be looking at saying, we sure love you talking about X?
I would start with saying that, I mentioned the 4 areas. The best applications are balanced in the 4 categories.
That's a good point.
Not just like having 2 dozens of blog posts. It's just one area. But if you have blog post engagement, attending user groups or lunch and providing feedback, that's a more balanced approach. And maybe in 1 month you are doing a blog post, the other months you are doing a user group presentation. Every other month you do something else, provide feedback, and throughout the year you are present on social media and LinkedIn. You have a Sitecore group with more than 13,000 people in there.
Wow.
Or on Slack, we have more than 10,000 individuals chatting in 50 different channels. So being there, of course, it's just, just makes it round, and puts, of course, like sometimes attending Sitecore Lunch just puts the cherry on the cake. but still, it counts because that's how you are part of the community. So those engagements still count.
And maybe not to say that if you're not a speaker, don't worry. Like you don't have to tick all the boxes, right? You can, if you're strong in blog post creation, for example, or other content creation, just make sure it gets visibility and maybe tick some of the other boxes. And if you don't want to get in front of people, that's totally fine. It doesn't hinder you from becoming an MVP. Of course, you need to be strong in the others. But just to say.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, because I think there are some people that just have stage fright, don't want to get on a stage, don't want to do a webinar, don't want to get into a user group, but that doesn't mean that you aren't someone that would be valuable in the Sitecore community. So just focus on the areas that you are good at and make sure that you just put strong contributions into that. So
and
that's a good point.
Sebastian, you ticked a box there that I wanted to touch on, just a little technicality piece that I remember running into a lot when you're doing blog posts, especially if you're contributing on your company's blog, your company's blog site. Make sure you have author credit, because that's one thing that we've seen. I remember just reviewing applications, and it's just a little thing, but make sure you get author credit. Otherwise, it makes it very hard to prove that you wrote it. So.
Yeah. And don't make AI do everything.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but that's true for any contribution. So it has to be verifiable. So if you spoke at a user group, but there is no mention of the user group anywhere on the internet, it's really hard to verify. And you want to make sure that every contribution you mention on the profile, you help the reviewers to find that information, so they don't have to dig in deep and spend an hour to find all the claims what you make. So helping the reviewers would help you to receive the award.
Yeah.
But But on the other hand, like if you create visibility for what you create, I mean, you do that for helping the community. So if the community doesn't know about your content that you hide somewhere in your blog and you don't tell anyone,
right?
Yeah, that doesn't help anyone. That doesn't help us or anyone reviewing it.
Right.
It also doesn't help the community. So
yeah, it's not contributing, right? And I think that's a great point that you both raised, just because people should know that when you're doing the application, you're not only, marking down what you did, but there is a field where you have to put in some kind of link verification or something just to show, so that it's easier to say, okay, yeah, like, whether it was a LinkedIn post of a blog or a podcast, or if it was something that kind of verifies that you spoke at a user group or something like that. So as you're kind of putting together your application throughout the year and making a list of the contributions you're doing, it's always helpful to also put a link or something like that in that list, so that when you're filling out the application, it's easy to just reference that stuff. So I think that's a really good point to raise. So I know we talked a little bit before about just kind of what being a part of the Sitecore MVP community kind of has to offer. Like once you're actually, awarded the recognition, you sign the NDAs because you're going to hear about some information that you can't tell the world about. What else does it really unlock for members of the community beyond just getting the Sitecore MVP title?
So yeah, I think it's this is what I wanted to say. Maybe it's something that it's better if Rick mentioned, because he knows all this.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to take that. It's being on both sides of the equation, if you will. It's access. It's early access. You get meetings with the MVP community leaders. You have the community. I think I touched on this before with, again, if it gives back, what you give too. So if you can be social and reach out to community members and they don't bite, just have conversations, between strategists and technologists, right? Yep. Or ambassadors, reach across the virtual aisle, if you will, but just, have those conversations. You're going to gain knowledge automatically. Yep. It's certainly, and I mentioned this in part 1 of this series, but it certainly has potential to create gains in your career. Having an MVP award means something, and it's been around for a long time. It's a well-recognized community in this space, a leading one. So it just definitely carries weight. Along with that, it's friendships, it's fun. There's some great times. I mean, there's countless benefits, but there's also, mechanical things like you can, a license that you can use, for your, especially for the developers, they can access but available to all MVPs, training. Again, so it's knowledge and access. So, I mean, across the board, but again, there's just kind of like the soft items, if you will, that are the community and the friendships that you gain over time, and the networking is runs deep. But again, the benefits to your career overall, immeasurable. I would not be where I am without the MVP community.
Absolutely. And to the points that were raised, it's about those connections foremost, because it really does allow for a lot of those kind of conversations. If you need help on something, you can go to anybody in the MVP community to kind of figure out a solution to something, as well as then I think even Tamas, you had mentioned earlier, the part about now with the evolution of the program, like MVPs get learning credits and things like that. And, the Sitecore learning team has created such a great kind of area that has all those different modules and certifications and things like that. And being an MVP, you get to have kind of clearer access to that stuff. While anybody in the Sitecore space can access those things, there are specific MVP credits that go towards that, which is great too. So
let's also not ignore the sweet swag and the quick on and off of rides at major theme parks for parties and things like that, which
exactly. No, that's fair. Yeah, I had to wear my MVP swag today, even though it's like 95 degrees in Chicago. So I don't know why I'm in a vest, but here we go. So
Sebastian.
And since you are under NDA as an MVP, we are able to share information earlier than we are sharing in public.
Yes.
So that usually gives you also an advantage. If you know things earlier than others, you can definitely plan that in your projects. Whether you are a customer, whether you are a partner, I think having information earlier, having direct access to product managers execs sometimes, right? Like this is definitely an advantage.
Definitely. Yeah, especially even the note about having direct access to the product teams and stuff. I mean, plenty of times when we're in the midst of figuring out something for one of our customers or things like that, and it's like, oh, this is a nice enhancement that could be made even just within like Page Builder or something like that. Like having that direct access to the product teams has always been super helpful, because then it's like, oh yeah, that actually would make sense. We'll build that in the product roadmap. And now with it being SaaS, they can roll it out pretty instantaneously, which is nice.
Yeah, one big one that it's kind of just lives in my ethos, so I don't even think about it, but it's such a huge one in that it combines access and community, and that is the MVP Summit every year. So is a multi-day event to meet with the community around Symposium, Sitecore's major conference. So it's sessions, it's deep dives, it's all a lot of material under NDA. So it is that really deep insight and look at what's coming.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I guess let's talk a little bit about just kind of the evolution of the program. I mean, Tamas, as we noted, you're headed towards a well-deserved retirement, so congrats on that front. But after leading the MVP program for so long, what would you say you're most proud of within the community?
Well, that's always a hard one, but I would say that how welcoming and supportive the community was throughout these 2 decades. I think that's absolutely proud thing for me, and we could keep that even there were challenges in the world like pandemics or AI threatening personal relationships. We keep that in the community. I think that's the proudest thing for sure.
Definitely. And do you have any advice for Sebastian as you kind of hand over the reins?
That's a good one. We are here in Dublin and having the whole week to hand over the role, and I just told him that just make it your own. They shouldn't fill the shoes I'm leaving, but he has to have his own shoes and make it in a way that it makes sense for him, and in a way that he enjoys working, because I have my way of working. He has his own way of working, but I'm sure that anything he does will be focused on the community anyway. So it will be different, but it will be good anyway.
Definitely. And to get ready for the screenshots of pictures during the one-on-one calls, because we see all of those with you, Tamas. So Sebastian, get ready for those.
Indeed.
And then Sebastian, kind of as you prepare to take over the MVP program, what maybe excites you the most about leading it into the future?
That's an interesting question. When I remember, so I joined the community as a customer in 2014. So that's when they purchased the license, and then that's where I got sucked in. And it was always amazing to see how everyone helps each other, and I liked being part of it. And now having the chance to even help more with it, help full time with it, and put all my efforts and thoughts into it. I'm really happy that Tamas gives me that chance, kind of right. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so it'll be great as it grows. And Tamas, I'm sure we're going to keep seeing, sprinkles of you at different events and things like that to hang out. I don't think you'll be able to get away from the MVP program forever. That's for sure. So
I'm looking forward to the Sebastian Slack emoji.
Ooh, there we go. There we go. That is something. Very exciting. Were there any questions, guys, that I didn't ask or that we didn't cover that you wanted to before we get into some of the fun ones?
I think those who are aspiring, I would say 2 things.
Yep.
One, you shouldn't do it just to be awarded. You should do it because you love contributing to the community. You love sharing your knowledge and experience. That's really important, because if you are doing it with passion, then it will come through as a real contribution, not just like, this is a sweaty try of getting an award. Right. And the second one is also linked to the passion. If someone loves blogging, they should do blogging, but you shouldn't do blogging because Rick told you to do blogging. You should do what you are passionate about. If you like TikTok and do it in Spanish, then you do that. If you want to create an open source module, you do that. You don't have to do blogging. You don't have to do public speaking. Do what you are passionate about, because that passion will be reflected in the community, and you will be getting to your final destination quicker and in a more fun way than if you are trying just to force it and try to follow the rules.
That quality over quantity piece.
Definitely. Yeah. That passion and excitement is what makes Sitecore a great product, but a great community. And that's why you should want to be an MVP, not just because you want to have the title and the cool vest. So very fun. Great. Want to get into some fun and personal questions with you guys just while we have you. So what was maybe your favorite MVP Summit memory, or maybe craziest story? Because obviously, you guys have been a part of the program for a long time. Plenty of MVP summits that you've attended. Do you have any favorite memory from any of them?
I'd say let's go for the second craziest memories, because the first craziest memories, I don't think they want me to share. So
we signed NDAs for a reason. We'll keep those behind closed doors.
I was going to caveat and say that you can share.
Yeah, right?
No, but I think the MVP summits that I attended, I think they are all great in its way. It's just great to meet the MVP community each year at the MVP Summit. If I have to pick one, it's probably my first one in 2018 in Orlando. It was just a great feeling to be amongst all of those smart minds. I love the Avatar ride, so that has been a special one.
Nice.
So yeah,
great. What was the favorite city that Symposium was in? Because obviously Symposium is where MVP Summit is held. Do you guys have a favorite city?
No, I don't personally. I always keep it based on like who I meet with and who I have a chance to have interaction with. So whenever I go around the globe for the different user group conferences or symposiums, MVP summits, it's always the people who makes it special for me.
Yeah.
So it could be anywhere, but the MVPs make it special.
No, that's very nice.
I would add it's not the city itself, it's more the moments that make it special. Like
definitely
heading to a Waffle House at 2 a.m, like I don't know, something like that.
That's very, very good point. And that's true, right? It's the late nights in a conference hall, or like, even just areas around the booth and things like that. That's what makes it special. So it doesn't necessarily matter where it is. It's nice when it's in warmer climates, I will say, but that's just neither here nor there. How about favorite piece of MVP swag? We talked about kind of the swag. Rick's got his great tumbler that we got last year, which was very nice. But any favorite piece of swag that you guys have either given out or maybe you have yourselves?
Oh, that's also so hard. Like,
how about the pillow?
I personally don't have the pillow, but we do produce some, so we will bring it to MVP Summit in Orlando this November.
Please.
So you can have some of those. But,
thank you.
I'm personally, I'm not attached to things, so for me it's a bit harder. But I keep enjoying figuring out some new stuff every year, just to make sure that MVPs get something new, and they can't figure out what will be the next one this year, but like every time you're just like trying to find something which is valuable. You
run out of ideas.
Yes, but it's still good.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
I was curious, Tamas, are you going to take a copy of the pop-up MVP banner into retirement with you?
Ooh.
Oh, actually, I wrote it here in Dublin.
There we go.
And I will hand it over to Sebastian.
Oh, you're handing it over? Okay. All right.
Yes. Yeah, he has to have it on the one-on-ones and
it's the baton. Yeah, okay.
Indeed.
I didn't know if there was a secret backup one that you could take with you. So
great. Well, to wrap up, if you guys could introduce, we've got 3 categories within the MVP program, right? We've got technology, we've got strategists, we've got ambassadors. If you guys could introduce a completely new MVP category, is there one you would add to the mix?
Oh, difficult. I think we've tried a lot of categories in the past and they didn't survive long. So if you tie it to some product or trend or something, like we had commerce, but then commerce wasn't a thing anymore and so on. So I think the ones we have are very consistent and solid. One thing I personally thought about is we have a lot of Sitecore employees that contribute to the community, but somehow don't have that kind of recognition. So I was wondering if that makes any sense to include that into that. I saw, in addition to that, I saw in the MVP feedback that there was a request maybe to have AI, machine learning categories. Again, I'm not sure if that's rather or better within the other categories, because those are a bit broader and survive a trend. I'm not saying AI is just a trend, but I think those that we have proved that they are solid to survive longer.
Very true. Very true.
And it's not really about a new category, but it's more about like, we are proud of the diverse community have in terms of like regional diversity, in terms of like technology, marketing strategy, ambassador, executives, and so on. I think what we would really like to focus on the future is really how we can extend this in terms of like to customers, and I think that's really important, because they are more and more users of the platform, and with Agentic Studio and all the other things, it's not on the partners or not on the implementations anymore. Yeah. So customers will be something. It won't be like a separate category, but I think having more and more customers in the MVP community would also give us really good, valuable feedback and the different viewpoint we want. And of course, we when we talk about diversity, having diversity in multiple ways, I think that's really important for us, and that we will make sure that to keep that up and improve diversity in every way possible.
Absolutely. And, to your point, those customers are the power users, and it's the perfect segue because we're about to have some of the customer MVPs on the podcast. So thanks for teeing that up, Tamas.
Thank you.
Well, as one final question for you guys, I think we've talked through a lot of things about where the, program started, kind of how it's evolved. For anybody who's listening to this podcast right now and wants to become a Sitecore MVP, just from your take, where is one place they could start?
I would go with mentorship.
Yeah.
Like in the last episode, you mentioned that mentorship and that personal connection, that's someone, a Sherpa, who is helping you to get introduced in the community and helping you to make the first steps in terms of contributions. I think that's the biggest one. And that there are dozens of folks who are willing to take their time and support an inspiring MVP. So mentor program is the way to go.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining. This is obviously a ton of valuable insight. And I think for anybody who wants to become a Sitecore MVP, this is definitely an episode to listen to, because it gives you a lot of valuable ways to make that happen. So Tamas, Sebastian, thank you for joining us at the Sitecore Water Cooler today and providing us with all this valuable insight. We hope to have you back on the water cooler again soon. Thanks for listening to the Sitecore Water Cooler podcast. Find out more information about AmericanEagle.com's Sitecore services and today's topic in the description below. This episode is brought to you by AmericanEagle.com Studios. I'm your host, Maggie Burke, and special thanks to our executive producers, Renee Nelson, Nicole Giarango, and Brian Winger.